Episode 6. Welcome to Health to Home, Shock and Freeze. Shock is a critical condition brought on by a sudden drop in blood flow through the body. Shock may result from trauma, heat stroke, blood loss, an allergic reaction, severe infection, poisoning, severe burns, or other causes. When a person is in shock, his or her organs aren't getting enough blood flow or oxygen. And it's a very severe condition, and 911 should be called when you suspect a person is going through shock and there's nothing in your control that you feel you can do. Hi, I'm Mary Bourne, traditional naturopath. I love sharing natural remedies with people. Natural remedies have been around for hundreds, even thousands of years, and they've been around that long because they work, and they work on humans and often animals too. So I hope you're enjoying this Health to Home series on Be Prepared to Heal. I feel that a lot of people don't realize the power they have to step up the healing process. We've addressed how the body gets energy, how it produces that energy. We've also talked about cuts and burns and traumas of all sorts. And today we want to talk about shock and freeze. Now, there's severe shock, which is, basically something that you need to get medical attention as quick as you can. Oftentimes, that can be between 5 minutes and over an hour. If the shock is due to something that occurred in a community, you may have to wait because there are people that need immediate attention. Not that shock isn't, but unfortunately, they don't look at it like somebody bleeding to death. It's more of the lack of blood with shock. So let's talk about the lesser stages of shock, which includes freeze. We've talked about the 3 aspects, and we'll go into it in just a minute, of stress and how they're expressed in either fight, flight, or freeze. So I think that we don't recognize that there are degrees of this shock stage that can fall under what we consider freeze. So oftentimes what you do in those minutes that you're waiting for help to arrive, you can be doing something. I would look into, do some research. I've also recommended that somebody in the family should have some knowledge of first aid, go through a first aid course. And I've put a link to a first aid course that you can do online and maybe do it as a family. And maybe the younger ones wouldn't be able to participate, but there can be a discussion on what to do, how to call for help, who to go to, those types of things. So, according to the Mayo Clinic online, signs and symptoms of shock vary depending on circumstances, and they may include cool, clammy skin. Now, I have shaken hands with somebody whose hands were cool and clammy. They're not going through shock. So it isn't the only thing that you look for. Look for pale or ashen skin. I've got a granddaughter whose skin is pale all the time. She's not going through shock. It's her skin color. Bluish tinge to the lips or fingernails, or gray in the case of dark complexions. So it's an off color that doesn't look right. You can tell that blood flow is not happening to those areas. Rapid pulse. So this is kind of counterintuitive. You would think that if the pulse is rapid, that a person would have good circulation, but it's not good circulation. Their heart can be beating really fast, but it's not getting blood to where it needs to go. Same thing with the breathing. You can have quick breaths, but they're not filling their lungs. And those quick breaths can cause you to faint or lose consciousness. So nausea or vomiting, now, maybe they're experiencing the flu or they ate something that wasn't good. So you need to look at a lot of these. So you might want to take a screenshot of this and post it somewhere that these would indicate calling 911 if you have several of these. So especially changes in mental status or behavior. A good thing to ask someone is, what is your name? Or can you tell me where you are? Or can you tell me what happened? So creating a conversation that engages the person into the thinking process. The main thing you want to do is to remain calm and try to stay in the moment with that person. If you're upset, you're certainly not going to be a benefit to the person you're trying to help. So another thing, with enlarged pupils, the person or extremely tightened pupils, that person may be on drugs. We had a police officer that would look at a person's pupils to determine whether or not that person was on drugs. So, looking at their pupils is not going to be the last thing to look for. Also, enlarged pupils may mean approaching adrenal exhaustion, because the mechanism that controls the pupils is done by the adrenal glands, and the adrenal glands also handle the stress responses. And when a person is constantly, chronically stressed, their pupils may not be able to contract like they should. And so they will have trouble with daylight, even on a cloudy day. They'll have to wear sunglasses, sometimes even inside the home, if there's too much bright light. So if you are experiencing, and this happens more with blue-eyed people than dark-eyed people. So blue-eyed people automatically let too much light in and have to be more protective about their eyes and wearing protective, sunlight sunglasses when they're outside on a very sunny day, or if they are outside and it's snow on the ground and sunny, that snow reflects back to that person and it's tough for them to see. So they should always remember to wear either goggles that protect the sun from getting in the eye. However, when you're healthy, allowing sunlight into the eye is one of the best ways to get vitamin D. So there's controversy in that. I feel that if you wear sunglasses all the time, you don't get that additional vitamin D. Well, most of the people say you need it on your skin, but there is research that it can not totally toward the eye, but come at an angle to the eye, and that can come into the body and start the vitamin D for protection. So, there's pros and cons to so many things. But here we have one of the, I would just say, diagrams that we see with the fight, flight, and freeze dynamic. So if you look at the primary colors, you have the blue, the red, and the yellow as the primary colors are noting the freeze, fight, or flight. And then each one of these has another aspect. We've talked about the fight and the process of confrontation and dominance, and the when your impulse is to fight, then you have this feeling that you've been betrayed, you sabotaged, the world's against you, that type of thing. Also, lack of feeling, lack of not being able to let yourself love fully. That's that fight, always on the defensive kind. And if you look in the middle of the fight, flight response, you have play. And if you can interject play at any one of those areas of where the stress response is, or laughter, engaging the diaphragm in a laughter, allowing yourself to laugh really hard, like Santa Claus, ho, ho, ho type of thing. That's also very important. Breath is important for all three. If you don't get enough breath in the body, then you can't move through these different avenues of stress. So the one we want to talk about today is the freeze response. And one of the freeze response is where you're engaged in shock. You can't believe what's happened, that it's just too much for you to take in all at once. I'm telling you that a lot of people went through that situation, 9/11, and in 2019 into 2020. The news was full of fear, and people were bombarded, had to stay in their homes, things that you never had to deal with before, at least not here in America. Now, a lot of people just shut down. The worst thing that happened to those people that shut down was the stay in their homes and not engage with other people, not even being allowed to go to church. There were so many wrong aspects of how it was handled. It could have been handled so much different, and I think the impact would have been so much different. Children having to stay away from school for a whole year. It just really was not handled well. Whatever you think of that, you may think that it was handled well, but 2 years, 3 years later, we're seeing the consequences of those actions, and they're not good. They're not really good. I'm going to talk about what's happened with the teenagers in just a minute. But one of the ways you go internal, and you almost like shut yourself off. from other people, from circumstances. You go down a rabbit hole that a lot of people had a hard time getting out of and engaging again. And some people still haven't recovered from that situation, don't feel safe at any aspect, not even in their own homes. Some people handled it where they evaded and they surrendered and they just, okay, whatever you have to say, they just couldn't think anymore. Because when you are in that deep fear, it shuts off the ability to think for yourself. You just buy into that. You glue your eyes, just like the 9/11 where the planes hit. You glued your eyes to the screens. Everybody was watching TV, which made the broadcasters really happy. But let me tell you, it did not make the rest of the world happy, because that fear was like a worm that just kept going around and around and around. And the results of it, we still haven't recovered. Flight airlines, they used to be a happy place. It's difficult now to consider that as a happy place now. Some people, when they go through shock, can be offered brandy, or you can also, there's a remedy, a homeopathic remedy of capsicum, and that helps you put it under the tongue, and it helps you bring you back from the non-thinking to the thinking clearly again, being able to look at things as, well, that's not right, or why am I doing that? Able to think properly. 70% of adults in the US have experienced some type of traumatic event at least once in their lives. Now, this is personal, not nationwide. We're talking personal. That's 223.4 million people. More than 33% of youths exposed to community violence will experience post-traumatic stress disorder. And we talked about that in the last class on what to do about that. So some of those events might be national disasters such as a tornado or hurricane, fire or flood, sexual assault, physical assault, witness shooting or stabbing of a person. I'm telling you, it's getting more and more that we're hearing about school shootings or rapes or violent events. If I was a parent right now raising children going into college, I know that it would be very concerning, because a lot of these events happen at colleges, and it's a scary prospect. You spend so much money getting them into a decent college, and then you hear about rapes on campus, just violence. And some of that is because these kids are going through a stress response and not feeling heard. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what to do and how you can start a support system in your own family. But even being hospitalized is a traumatic event. When my husband and I had COVID almost 2 years ago, was a year and a half ago, we were hospitalized. Nobody was able to come to see us except one person, and only that one person. So it's not like this day you could see this person. No, one person was allowed to come in, and they had to be gowned and masked, so you couldn't hug them. It was horrible. I mean, hospitalization is horrible to begin with. There's so much fear involved. The doctor that was taking care of me for my heart was outside the room looking at me through a window, talking on the phone to me. He never once stepped in the room to examine me. What kind of care is that? You know, I was the food, it was outsourced. Nobody ever checked to see if you had a meal. My husband went 5 days without eating. There was nothing appealing to him. Well, that's one of the aspects of COVID, is that you lose your sense of taste, smell, or your appetite. Somebody should have been aware of the fact that he never ate during those 5 days. It was criminal, I'm telling you. So peppermint is an essential oil that can be used. Remember the old smelling salts thing? Peppermint oil could be used like a smelling salt. It is a strong scent that actually helps the brain wake up. So I feel that it is a really good thing to help with shock. You know, I also have a link in the description below talking about the symptoms of long COVID. So we discussed, like I said last week, about PTSD and some of the aspects of what people experience and were too traumatized to come out of is now considered post-traumatic stress disorder. So I think you ought to go to that link, look at what they talk about, such as the trauma that people may be going through. Now you put that on top of a disaster event, and that person has a much less time of moving through that. Emotional pain is not something one gets empathy from, because you don't have any physical signs that you're in pain. It's the most misunderstood pain there is. So I often say that food is your best medicine, but it can also be your enemy if you don't eat good, healthy food. I think the fact that my husband had a base of eating really good, nutritionally dense food, that we were both able to come out of this COVID and do better. It's taken a long time, but I'm almost 80 and he's in his 80s. And so, we're in that group. So the fact that we can be as agile, he plays tennis 5 days a week, and I garden and do a lot of things that I don't see many in my peer group do. So the ability to handle stressful situations will depend on a healthy diet, your lifestyle, healthy relationships, finding someone you feel safe to dump on. Sometimes that can be God, that helps you to de-stress, but not to blame God, but to ask for help, that type of thing. So positive attitudes is really helpful to move you through the stress response, to allow yourself to laugh, to allow yourself to hug, which we weren't allowed to, and feel the expression of love from somebody else. And there's no harm in asking for help. If you feel that you're overwhelmed with tasks or something, ask somebody to help you. A lot of times people are very willing to help, but they don't know you need help. So asking for help is not a problem. We need to look at it like it's okay to ask for help and to interject that in our children, that it's okay to ask for help and not do it for them, but show them how to do it. Energetic medicine is huge for shock and freeze. And remember, this happens due to a lack of blood flow and a lack of energy. And when you're shutting down, it doesn't necessarily have to be the type of shutdown where your organs are not being fed oxygen and blood, but it can be just an experience of wanting to curl in and let the world go by because you just can't handle it anymore. And so some of this can be helped by, like I said, a good diet, good relationships, being able to laugh, healthy music. There's some very depressing music out there that should not be listened to by people that are depressed. Stay away from alcohol and drugs, those type of things. And I talked before about distress remedy and the importance of it and how it can be a great energy support. It's an energy medicine. Vibrationally, it moves the energy into the brain so you can think, and into the body where you can take action. It's an interesting supplement. Also, anxiousness, we've talked about that because it helps with anxiety, situational anxiety. So if you're going through a test or something like that, or a divorce, or you're changing jobs and it means to move to a different location. You know, children are traumatized when they have to move from this group of friends to another area where they don't have that friendship. They've got to develop new friendship. And the B vitamins, which I love Nutricalm because it has not only the B vitamins, but some wonderful herbs that support the nervous system. Licorice root is food for the adrenals, and it's very, very beneficial. I love this remedy, Nutricalm, for teenagers because I've seen such good results when they start taking a B vitamin on a daily basis. B vitamins are not stored. Humans can't store B vitamins. The animals know how to do that, but unfortunately, humans don't. So what did we learn today in this class? Well, we learned how to identify extreme shock and when to call 911, the importance of good nutrition and supplements for the nervous system. And of course, that goes along with healthy eating, nutritionally dense foods, bone broth, those type of things. How freeze and aggression go hand in hand. Sometimes you feel so pent up. And I feel that that's one of the reasons that we're seeing so many shootings and rapes and that type of thing. People want to blame it on the guns. There's no gun involved usually in rape. So violence is not necessarily the tool. Violence comes from within and how you use that tool. I'm not a gun lover. They actually frighten me. But I don't feel that people should not, I mean, in older times, that was a defense. That's how people ate, by what they shot. It's also what they grew. But, you know, those were where you didn't go to the grocery store and buy food. You had to find it yourself. You want to make sure that your body has got a good supply of B vitamins. Remaining calm during a situation. I'm telling you, Distress Remedy has helped me in so many ways to remain calm so I can handle the situation and help a person move through that frozen, I just want to curl up and let the world go by. You know, depression and freeze are like this. Sitting down and talking with somebody, letting them know that it's safe to talk with them and it's okay. Whatever they're feeling, it's okay. Let's talk about it. Let's hug and know that you're safe. You know, failure is just another way to learn what not to do. And everybody experiences failure. Yeah, there are varying degrees of failure, but they are stepping stones on how to learn to do something maybe in a better way, or like I said, what not to do. So I hope that this video has given you some clue on how to move through the freeze process, how to help somebody else move out of depression, out of anxiousness, out of rage. Please like, comment. I'd love to hear from you. Subscribe and share. And, you know, if you have a personal thing that you want to talk to me about, be sure to email me, drmary@bornforhealth.com. There are some things that you just wouldn't want to put in a comment, and I understand that. And oftentimes I don't get notification that somebody has commented, so it may be a while before I see that comment, whereas I check my email on a daily basis. So I hope that this has been, like I said, beneficial, that you've learned something, and until next time, this is Dr. Mary for the health of it.